So thanks everyone for joining. My name is Diane, and hey Lauren. And I'll be in these short 45 minutes trying to give you a brief overview of what sustainable finance is and how does it affect you as a individually. As this might be a bit technical, I'll try to make it very easy to understand, but please don't hesitate to send questions on the chat. I'll answer them after the presentation if it's general questions, and within the presentation if it's a question related to understanding of any of the terms I'm talking about. And yeah, any questions welcome. And yeah, so let's get started. So if you can see, I guess you can all see my screen. So I want to talk to you about how sustainable your money is and how we can make it more sustainable. So first of all, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Diane. I'm one of the co-founders of Matavest, and this is Mayur here with me on the picture, and he's my co-founder, and together we want to enable young working adults to be able to invest in what matters to them. We've been doing a lot of events offline when it was possible, but now online, and every time what we want to do is really help enable you to understand what is the link between your money and sustainability, and enable you to take those first steps to make your money more sustainable. So right now what we do is we partner with responsible financial advisors, and we enable you to get matched with one that will suit you for your financial needs. And then you get a first free session to understand what this is all about, and then you can continue or not. So it's really like engagement free, and we really believe that everyone around needs to not only care for the planet, but also for the financial future. And seeing how our population is aging, we need to begin to save for our retirement a bit earlier than, well, we would like to. So that is about Matavest. Now, let me start with this. This for me is sustainable finance. And so my mom, she has glasses, and when she does not wear her glasses, she cannot see. She cannot see the world around her, and she needs to ask someone to bring her glasses so that she can actually see something. And I believe that is what we have right now with sustainable finance, is that people don't have the glasses to see the link between sustainability and our money, and that is why the field is not moving. And today, within this workshop, within these next 40 minutes, I really want you to enable to have these glasses so that you can see the link and you can see what your money is really up to. So here's the deal. While we are at the Zero Waste Festival, I'm sure there's been amazing workshops around the topic. We always care about our consumption. So we care about less plastic. We care about less transportation, air transportation. We care about what we do. However, when we talk about our money, we don't think about sustainability. And the truth is, no one looks behind that ATM, behind the banks, to see if what our money is doing and what is the impact of our money. And let me start with an example so that you can understand what I'm really talking about. So in 2019, and these are unfortunately not this year's fires, but the ones of last year, and there's just too many fires going on, but that's another story. Last year, the Amazon rainforest just burst into a fire, and the main reason for that was human-led. And it was devastating because of that, not because of its size. It wasn't the biggest so far, but because it was caused by companies who were deforesting, and that led to that fire. Now, if you look at those companies and who those companies were supported by, you can see that these companies were supported by major banks and financial institutions that everyone in this workshop will know the name of. And so if you think that as a customer, you have your bank lying into a bank account and it's just staying there, it's not. That money is used to fund companies, and those companies have an impact. And that's basically how you measure the impact of your money. So it all adds up, and you might be fighting, and we are fighting for the climate in the streets on Friday. We're going out there, we're signing petitions, we're raising our voices, but if our money is doing the total opposite, what is the point? Especially if you know that, so this is a research done by Nordea. Basically, they realized that the impact of a saving piled up through the life of one person. And they did this for a Swedish random guy. If you totaled up the impact of his savings in terms of carbon footprint, that money had up to 27 times more impact than his consumption. So I'm not saying consumption is not useful. I'm more saying that it's a pity that we have been neglecting the power of our money so far, and we need to get back to it. And yes, and this is a glimpse of hope, because yes, change is possible and change can happen fast. And this is the example of a US-based pension fund who received a call from 10 of their customers asking them where their pension was invested. And after those 10 customers called, that pension fund decided to become more sustainable and invest in more sustainable funds. So yes, money has a huge power. We can use it, and change can be possible. But then how is this change possible, and what is the real impact of your money? So let's start with the basics. This is me. This is my bank. Why am I at this bank, which is BNP Paribas, which is not the most sustainable bank in where I live, which is Belgium? It's because there's no full bank that I can use, which is sustainable. It's now going to change. There's a new bank coming in. But right now I'm still at BNP. And on my account, I have money. And I don't know if that money is used to fund companies who are responsible for deforestation, or if that money is used for renewable projects or local farming in other countries. So it's something I have no transparency on. And what we did is that we launched a campaign called My Money, My Planet. And what we did was we encouraged people to go through their bank and ask them what their money was doing. And you could see, based on the survey that we did, the shorter responses received from banks were from the banks who were the most sustainable, because honestly, those had nothing to hide. They were very clear on their answers. And the ones who were at the bottom came up with very long answers full of jargon, things that people did not understand. And they came up also with the fact that they were recycling more paper in the office, which honestly had nothing to do with the impact of your money. This is a very short answer from a very sustainable bank. On top of that, what we did is that we encouraged people to talk about the impact of their money. And how we did that is that we told people, please take a photo of you with your bank card, tag your bank, and ask them where your money is going. And through that, we had a lot of people doing it, and we had bank responses. We even met with 2 banks to understand what sustainability policies were there, and what were their progress in terms of sustainable finance for the years to come. So when you look at all this, you might still be wondering what exactly is the link between your money and our planet. And overall today, you can find any financial product. So whether it's pension fund, savings account, home loans, investments, any of those products can be sustainable or non-sustainable. How they are told apart is that filter in the middle of my slide. And that filter can be different criteria on which financial products can be so basically financial products then can be excluded, split apart, companies can be taken out in order for that product to be more sustainable. So let's think about, let me talk to you about home loan. This is a service that is only available in certain sustainable banks, but basically you can have a sustainable home loan. And how it works is that the interest rate that you get on your loan is dependent on how sustainable the house that you're going to buy with that loan is. And so it's sustainable because it encourages the user to go with a more sustainable house, and the money also where it comes from is sustainable. But all of that depends, all of these sustainable financial products depend on what is the impact that your money has when you invest. So basically, I put my money in a pension fund for my future. I want that the companies that my money is going to support throughout the years until my retirement cope with my values. And what companies are we talking about? What is it? How do you exclude certain type of companies? That is all around sustainable finance. So what is the core impact? And I just wanted to talk to you about that because I think that's something we mix up a lot. We mix up a lot, especially within the financial industry, and it's something we don't mix up when we talk about fashion, oil drilling, or meat industry. So let me take this example. I'm a meat eater. I'm actually vegetarian, but let me tell you that I'm coming to you and I'm telling you you need to eat meat, and because I'm sustainable. And you'll tell me, no, meat just is not sustainable the way it gets produced, the way that it's just too much water, too much vegetables, etc., to produce that one meat. And I mean, it's just not a sustainable way of eating. And I, as the meat producer, will tell you no. But you're not talking about the right thing. My meat is sustainable because the packaging I'm packaging my meat in is sustainable and it's 100% biodegradable. However, you're not talking about the core impact. So when you talk about the meat industry, everyone knows that the core impact of that meat is how that meat is produced, etc., etc. It's not about the packaging. When you talk about fashion, it's the core impact of that fashion. It's not about the LED lights and the hangers in the store, whether they're LED or wooden or whatever. It's more about the conditions of the workers, the textile, etc. That's the core impact. And when you talk about oil drilling, you're not going to talk about how sustainable the buildings are in which the offices of these oil driller company are sustainable. You're going to talk about the oil drilling structure, etc., etc. But however, that's what's happening in banks. And in banks, when we talk, and this is an example of a bank in Belgium. And I don't like to show names, but I know it also stays more and sticks more with people, is that I saw that on LinkedIn and I was like, you're a bank and you're telling me that you're reducing by 76% your office paper. How is that the core impact of your bank? You're telling me that you're doing less business travel. This is exactly the example that I was telling you. It's like Zara telling you that they're sustainable because they're using LED lights in their stores. And so that is something that we often get misleaded about, is that banks would advertise the fact that their building is sustainable, that they produce less paper, use less water, etc., in order to hide and basically misguide the consumer into really wondering where their money is invested and what their money is used for. So the real impact of their money. And this is how it works. So whenever you put money in a pension fund, in an insurance, in a bank, all of that money, so none of that money sits somewhere. If you want your money to sit somewhere and not be used for anything, you need to have it under your bed. Because if it's put in a financial product, it will always be used for something else. And so the companies that you can see here in green, so here on the right side of the screen, these companies and their activity will determine how sustainable and what is the impact of your money. So whether let's do it in the case of a bank, right? So if you put your money in a bank, that bank might maybe lend that money to other companies, might maybe lend that money to other individuals building their house, etc., but for bigger loans. And insure the same thing, and investment manager. And then when you talk about funds, it's even more complicated, because there are funds, but there's also funds of funds, and you actually don't really ever know what the core impact of your money is. And during the campaign that we did, which is My Money, My Planet, what we realized is that in a large bank, it's practically impossible to understand what your individual money is doing. So you have, if you're really into sustainability, you just have to take your money and go into a more sustainable bank, because you'll never be able to trace your individual impact of your money in a mainstream bank. So, and that's where I was talking to you about the difference between a normal financial product and sustainable financial product. So if you're going into a normal financial product, these companies will be whatever they get, and the main purpose of this will have just to have the maximum financial return. So all will be taken into account. So you can take alcohol, arms, drugs, anything, any industry will be taken into consideration. It will be diversified, and the idea is really to maximize returns. Now, if you look at a sustainable portfolio, then the bank or the insurance or the investment manager will say, I'm saying no to alcohol industry, I'm saying no to a lot of industries, and basically that is how they're going to build the fact that your money will not be invested in those kinds of companies, and they will exclude things. They will take the most sustainable companies of some sectors, and they will funnel your money towards those companies, but not towards any company. So basically that's how the flow of money works. Now, you might have heard a lot about ESG, because ESG is the most trusted way to basically choose the companies that I was talking about just before. So the ones in which your money is going to be funneled. And ESG is this. So you can see that ESG stands for environmental social governance. And it's an overall score given to companies based on those three pillars. Now, within those 3 pillars, there are different ratings. And if you look at the environmental one, you have the impact of the company on climate change, their ecological footprint, their use of resource, and the pollution. So that is in the environment, the same in social, the same in governance. Now you have external rating agencies like MSCI, Sustainalytics, etc., who come and who will rate certain companies on their ESG score. So when, let's take the example, I think I took the example of Volkswagen because it's a very interesting example, because before their scandal, they had amazing ESG rating. They were, I think, one of the first of the automobile industry, and you can see now they're just the last 71 out of 71. And so ESG basically establishes an overall rating for the company, and that is something that customers, well, fund managers, etc., can stick to in order to understand if that company is sustainable or not. And when you talk about ESG, and you can see that ESG risk rating, why? Because it has been as well, basically there's overall a risk of the company, of basically the best that company does in its ESG, the less risk it has of facing these scandals, of any, well, basically of any scandals, of any problems within. So the better the rating is, the lower risk it has on those factors. And so you can see, I'm just showing you more of the industry comparison. So you have Daimler, Toyota, Honda, Tesla, etc. Now, one thing I wanted to make clear to you is that if you're totally within sustainability, ESG will not be good enough for you. So when I looked at finance and sustainable finance the first time, honestly, I thought this is not something I call sustainability. I don't call Daimler to be a sustainable company. Well, let's face it, finance is a bit late to the party in terms of sustainability. And there's such a huge industry that it's just hard for them to change. So I understood that when you talk about publicly traded equities, so anything that is rated on the stock market, that those will be very well, it won't be as sustainable as you wish for. So what I say is, I always say, when you look into sustainable finance, you need to come in with a mindset of what's the least the one that is not as bad as the others, because you won't find the best one. Because ESG is not a rating that is already that is good enough to show what is sustainable or not, and it's not a methodology that is well, basically perfect. However, it has shown over the years that companies who are well scored on ESG have outperformed the market compared to companies who are not sustainable. And that is, I think it's more that I wanted to show you how the Volkswagen ESG rating just plumbed after their scandal on, well, basically on their engines. So yeah, so I wanted to continue with this definition of basically what sustainable finance is. And I think you understood it by now, but it really takes into account environment and social consideration. And it makes us look at finance in a more long-term way. So until now, we've looked at short-term gains, and how much I could gain more. However, right now we're integrating that sustainable factor, which enables us to ensure that the impact is in our money doesn't destroy our future, and that it will enable us to be more long-term thinking. This is a bit outdated. However, it's the best showcase that I've seen. But as you can see, the sustainable finance sector is becoming bigger. And even some people and some actors in the field are saying that in 5 to 10 years, we won't be talking about sustainable finance anymore. We'll talk about how sustainable the finance is. So really every finance you'll be talking about will be sustainable. It will be more of a degree that we'll be talking about. But Europe is very distinctively leading the way in this field. And I think it's linked overall to the awareness of investors here, of, well, basically progress on the user side as well. And it's something that the German presidency, which is happening now, is taking a lead on. It's also, it was also, and it's still planned, but a major topic within the COP26. It's becoming a huge topic, and it has grown exponentially on the institutional investor side. So meaning that not like you and I who are private people, but more on fund managers, et cetera, et cetera. Sustainable finance is becoming huge. Now, the problem is that people like you and I is just very difficult to understand already when we talk about finance. And so sustainability adds a complexity to it. And it's just very difficult for us to take the ball rolling and invest in sustainability as well. However, when you look at how it's growing and why it's growing, you can see that, and you'll hear about it, I'm sure, because the EU has just passed a taxonomy. So you'll be able, it's basically an overall framework on the environmental side to understand how sustainable every company is. And so that will be a mandatory framework, and it will show on the user side to have an overall rating, you know, like any product you have in the supermarket, sometimes there's a label of that's good, that's not good, etc. They want to have the same thing for environmental, the environmental footprint of companies, and that the taxonomy will enable. So that is a huge push on the EU side. There's more and more sustainable products out there. So I only put a few banks there, and I'm not well, basically favoring a few banks instead of the other, because that's a question already I've had. I just putting some logos there, but there's more and more sustainable banks. There's more fund managers, and you can even see through COVID that the fund managers who were sustainable have even grown their portfolios and grown their assets within the COVID crisis, while other portfolios within normal banks, which were not sustainable, have not grown at all. And then on the retail investor side, so people like you and I, there's a huge growth, and that 500% seems impressive, but because sustainable finance was just a niche a few years ago, and when you just begin from a niche, the growth is just incredible in terms of percentage. But I mean, it's growing, it's booming, and we'll hear about it more in the future. I can see that it's almost half past, and I wanted to give you 15 minutes for the questions, but I also wanted to show this, which is interesting, is that more and more financial institutions give out loans, and they attach sustainability criteria to it. So, and there was one for Prada, these are a few companies that took loans with sustainability linked. And I really thought that when I saw that, it was really a step forward in the sustainable industry, because as our money, as our world is well, ruled by money, if I may say, if money changes towards more sustainable and to sustainable linked factors, then we can really hope for the best in terms of our future and the future of our planet. So I'm not gonna go through this. I don't think, yeah, I'll just end here and with this quote, because I really like it and I think it's powerful. I think that today finance rules the world. And with Mattervest, we're ready to change those rules, and we hope to do it together. So yeah, I'm open at all for questions. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat. Or I think there's also another way. I think I got a list of questions. No, I can't see any questions yet. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer. Okay, no questions. But then maybe, okay, I've been getting some retargeting ads about solar panel investing. Do you have any insights on that? So solar panel investing would be outside of everything I've talked about. That would be outside of ESG and all those criteria I talked about, because it's very focused on private projects. I know it offers good returns. However, it's up to you. So you have to know that once that business or that company that you're getting ads from, you just have to check if they're regulated, because that means that your money is safe, and then basically those projects offer a stable return. Of course, there's always a risk, but if solar panels is something that you want to support, I think it's always a good start. And if you want to not invest in the stock market, but in private projects, they're a good way to go. What are the best? Anna, just tell me if I answered your question correctly, and if not, I'm happy to give additional comments. Jackie is asking me, what are the best types of sustainable investment? It depends what you want, and that's something I think that is different for everyone. So as Anna was talking about, if you were more of if you want more to focus on private projects and help fund small projects in developing countries, there's a lot of online platforms to do so. It doesn't have to be solar panels. It can be any other things. And I know there's also a lot of online platforms to link you to funding and supporting startups also in your region. So you buy equity and then you get a return. So it depends where you want to start. If you want to start by the stock market, don't go. I can't give you any financial advice. But what I'm gonna say is that don't go into buying one stock, because it's way too risky. Because that's just one company and it's not diversified at all. So what I would suggest is really to see what you're into, if you want to go public or private, and then based on that, look into products like ETFs, which are sustainable. There's a bunch of websites which tells you the list of sustainable ETFs. Sorry, I need to put my charger. Perfect. So there is a website which tells you the list of sustainable ETFs, and I think they're a good way to start. So yes, I hope I've answered your question, Jackie. If not, let me know. Cool. And then Paul is asking, what is a simple first action you should just suggest to start on the sustainable journey for someone who has done none of that so far? So I don't know if you've already invested, Paul, because I would, the first action I always suggest people to do is basically, well, see what their bank does. And for that, actually, let me just unshare my screen, and I'm going to show you a website which is very informative. So let me show you. Now I'm going to share my screen again. And this is one of the first steps I suggest people to do, is that there's this Fair Finance Guide. And basically what they do is they do a bank ranking of how sustainable your bank is. I'm going to take the German one. And I would suggest that to be the first thing that you do is you go here and you say, okay, which bank am I at? I don't know. Let's take anyone. I'm at Commerzbank. Actually, this bank is not sustainable. And so when you look at what Commerzbank is doing, you can actually check how not sustainable they are. And basically, you can also choose the category which matters the most to you. So if you care the most about climate protection, you can even see how other banks and which is the best bank within this this rating. So when you talk about climate protection, you can see that the best bank to go with is GLS Bank. So it's a way to see how sustainable your bank is, and that is, I think, a first step, because the bank is something that everyone has, and it's also an impact your money has. Now, if you want to go further, you can also check what insurances are doing and how sustainable your insurances are. I would suggest, if you are investing, to also check if your investments are sustainable. And if you don't want to change your bank, what we did was that we created this action, and we're sending a letter on your behalf to your bank to ask them where your money is going. So if you just sign this manifesto by providing your bank name, your country, your email, we'll send a letter to your bank on your behalf, asking them where your money is going. And we've had a lot of impact so far on that manifesto, of banks calling us back, of banks responding to their customers to tell them where their money was invested. So I would suggest those are the first steps you can take. So I hope that answered your question, Paul. I'll answer then Monica's question. What are my thoughts on Triodos Bank? Honestly, it's a great bank. We've been in touch with them, yeah, I mean, if you're into sustainability, if you're into, they're a great bank. I know that sustainable banks between themselves say a lot about each other, but well, I mean, Triodos, GLS, all of those are better than the mainstream banks. So I would suggest to, well, see about their fees, look about the other options available. And if you're from Germany, you can also see all the other sustainable banks here, and then see what suits you best. and then based on that decide for yourself. But I have nothing bad to say on Triodos, honestly. So I'm reading the question from Yasmin Da Costa. So she was basically, I'm summarizing, she was reading a review of GLS Bank. And I think it's around the same question as Monica. So as you can see, and we've also been in touch with them. GLS is a great bank. They're sustainable. They really care about where your money is going. And when it comes to investments, I mean, there's a myth about the fact that investing sustainably will bring you less returns, because it's the opposite. It actually gives you better returns. So I don't think you need to take sustainability as a risk. It's actually a good thing that your money is sustainable for you, but also for the impact of it. So GLS is a great bank. Thanks so much, Lauren. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So Rebecca, I think I answered the question. Is it true that you need to choose between climate, environment, and getting more money? It's not. So, and I think it's something that was also proven during the COVID crisis, is that stocks have really outperformed normal ones. Now I'm looking at Roberto's question. With sustainable finance becoming more important in the mind of companies, in your opinion, how can we avoid and keep ourselves informed to not invest in companies that use sustainability as a way of greenwashing their image? That's a very interesting topic, and I think we can talk about greenwashing a lot because it's such an extensive topic. Honestly, the taxonomy comes and solves that problem. So basically that mandatory reporting from the EU to really show and be transparent about the impact of the companies. Now, what I was showing you is that the ESG framework. That's not perfect. And you could see with the Volkswagen case that, well, they couldn't find out about this internal, well, basically mismatch, if I may call it, before it leaked. So it's not perfect, but with the taxonomy, it's a problem that's gonna be somehow solved. Now I understand your fear, and I think it's riding the waves of sustainability. But I think it also happens. It happens throughout the sectors, whether it's finance, consumption, etc. I think greenwashing is also about being informed yourself, and that's also what we want to do with Mataverse. Is that we want to show trusted sustainable finance products on our platform, which is coming soon, and so that the user does not have to spend a ton of time reading, but really understand what is truly sustainable and what is recommended. So Paul, I find that, okay, thanks, Paul. Okay, so Kiara's question is, when searching for a bank for a loan for a startup. It's funny, actually. I've just talked to someone, and she told me that the only bank who offered her a loan was the GLS Bank. So I know they do loans. I'm not sure about the startup, but I think that would be another story because. I mean, I would suggest to go with sustainable banks, but if you want your loan, I mean, open your options as wide as possible and see what's coming out of it. Of course, sustainability is the best to have, but I would say try with different banks. I don't have any suggestions. I'm not really an expert in loan. Cool. And Anna is just asking me, and I think that's the last question I'm going to take because it's already 44. So the Fair Finance Guide is available in some countries in Europe. It's unfortunately not available in every country because it's an NGO and it's a coalition led by Oxfam of NGOs, and they make a huge work into making this ranking, which is not available for every country. But I mean, there's also WWF who does some rankings. And if you tell me, Ada, which country you're looking for exactly, I might be able to help you because we also have a database of other websites that you can look into. Spain. Okay. Let me get back to you. Let me get, actually, if you can send me privately your email, I'll send you that via email. Cool. Yeah, I think it's 45 past. Thanks so much for being here. It's a bit weird to talk to myself on the screen without hearing anyone, but thanks for your comment. I'm happy you enjoyed it. And yeah, and do not hesitate to reach out to me. I can leave my email in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything else. And if you want to be kept updated on sustainable finance, you can go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter. We send every week news on sustainable finance where we try to keep it jargon free. Cool. Thanks so much, everyone, for your comments. It really means a lot. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Bye.